So, Manchester City, the crisis club in the Premier League right now, or is that an accurate tag? Well, I'm going to go into that in this video, guys, because I've spoken about Man City not too long ago and asking what has happened to them. Now I'm asking the question, are they in a full-blown crisis? Because when I made that previous video, they were still looking alright in the Champions League. They were up in second place in the Premier League. You know, it wasn't really the time to signal the crisis alarms, but a lot of people are doing that right now, and I can see why, because it has been a really bad run of fixtures. Right now in the Premier League, Manchester City, with their 4 losses in a row, they are the side that are in the worst form in the Premier League, bar none. The only one that comes close to them are the likes of Everton, but they've managed 2 draws in that time. Leicester City have managed a draw in that time. And everybody else pretty much at some point during that 4-game run, aside, well, Villa's another one as well. Villa are in a bit of crisis too, but they still have managed to get a draw. No side at the moment is on a 4-game losing streak. Man City have slipped from being on the coattails of Liverpool at the top to 11 points behind them and down in 5th place. They're on the same amount of points as Brighton, and they are 2 points behind Chelsea and Arsenal. Chelsea, of course, being a bit of a crisis club of their own earlier on in this season, but Maresca, former Pep Guardiola disciple, you know, one of his backroom staff at Man City, doing an incredible job there. And another ex-Pep Guardiola disciple, really, Mikel Arteta, getting Arsenal up into second place. Again, some Arsenal fans calling them a bit of a crisis club earlier in the season, but they've regained their form. Man City, though, are yet to do so. It's 6 losses in 7 games for them now, and it's not just the results, it's also the way they're playing. You know, for me, the worst of the lot probably has to go to that Feyenoord result, and that's no disrespect to Feyenoord. You know, they're a big club over in the Netherlands. They play some good stuff. You know, they deserve to be in the Champions League, but they are not on the financial might of Manchester City. They'll never be troubling the latter stages of the Champions League unless you get some miracle season like what we happened to Ajax a good few seasons ago. They're just not on that level, really. But the fact that Man City were 3-0 up in this one and then conceded a goal and then conceded another goal and conceded a third goal and equaliser, you know, as soon as that first goal went in, the heads dropped, the confidence slipped out of the players. And I don't know whether it was I'm not going to blame the fans because that's unfair, but you know, they just felt the atmosphere change when that one goal went in. It was like, oh boy, here we go again. You know, it's like that Twister meme, isn't it? I'll probably put it on the screen now. It's like the Twister meme, just like, here we go again. Here it comes. You know, and he did feel it, and that's exactly what happened. You know, it was an incredible turnaround from Feyenoord, and they could take credit for that for sure. But yeah, just the losses that they've had in the Premier League, you know, a 4-0 drubbing at home against Spurs. They've lost in the EFL Cup as well as you know, a competition that they used to win almost with their hands tied behind the back with a second string side. The first string side, you know, is really not good enough at the moment. You know, they're not performing. And as well, it gets even worse actually when you think about it, because you look at their run of fixtures, right? It's not easy. They've got Juventus coming up away in the next Champions League game. They've got the Manchester Derby in about 2 weeks or so. They play them on Sunday the 15th of December. Man United, I don't want to call them the noisy neighbours. They're roaring at the moment. You know, they've got the new manager and they're feeling confident. They've got Crystal Palace away as well. Palace, you know, they're a difficult prospect. You know, they're really fighting against relegation. Nottingham Forest, you know, in midweek, that's coming up tomorrow. As I record this, you might see this on a different day. It might be the same day of this game. You know, Forest have been doing incredibly well this season too. They beat Liverpool away from home. There's no easy games here. The Premier League is brutal. So I think it's going to be really tough. Aston Villa away after all that as well. Villa beat them last season at Villa Park, didn't they? I'm sure they did. So, you know, it's not going to be an easy run at all. It's kind of brutal, really. And do I see them recovering from it? Yeah, absolutely. Of course I do. They're going to recover from it. But winning the league now, 11 points. If Man City were 11 points ahead of, you know, Liverpool, for example, you'd say Liverpool were out of the title race. And I think you've got to apply the same logic to Man City. With the way the two sides are playing right now, honestly, it's incredible, really. I mean, I'm not sure why Edison got dropped for Ortega. A few people were calling for that. I think maybe that's why, because of form. But you look at Man City's side right now. Haaland's not really getting many goals. You know, he's he's not getting the service into him. You've got Phil Foden, who's been off it all season. You've got Rico Lewis, who's played as right winger. Lewis is a good player, don't get me wrong, but he's not a starting winger for Man City. That just speaks to how much their side is really a mismatch. Ake at left back, yes, he does play left back quite a bit, but it's not his ideal position, really. You had Bernardo Silva playing deeper than what he normally would against Liverpool as well. Kyle Walker was making mistakes. He got the captain's armband. It doesn't really work out for him. De Bruyne has not really got his fitness back yet. He's not doing too great. Savinho, he's been a bright spark in the side, but he seems to have gone off the boil a little bit recently. And obviously, the big elephant in the room is the fact that Rodri is going to be out. I mean, he said in an interview that I watched on the Rest Is Football podcast, the Gary Lineker, Micah Richards and Alan Shearer one. He said he's hoping to get back before the end of the season, but I think Man City desperately needed a holding midfielder. Is Kovacic? Is he injured? Is that why he's not involved? He's a great player, but he's not on the level of Rodri. But to get somebody on a short-term basis as good as Rodri, who are you going to get? There is no Rodri replacement out there. The man won the Ballon d'Or this year, He's literally, according to them, the best player in the world. So replacing him is a massive task. People were talking about Diaz as well. Diaz came back. He started and played the entire game against Liverpool at the weekend. But that is not the solution to this. The side seems to be in a bit of chaos, really. And I thought when Pep Guardiola, when I saw that Pep Guardiola signed his contract extension, I thought, right, that's it, lads. They're coming back now. This is the boost they need. If anything, they've got even worse since then. And we see this, right? This is my final point, really. We see this sometimes. I mean, all eras of dominance come to an end, right? Sir Alex Ferguson retired. Man United haven't won a league since. Jose Mourinho in his 2 stints at Chelsea, they looked unstoppable. But then they had a bad season, and then he left. Well, he got sacked on both occasions, I should say. This happens, right? This happens. But to see it implode this spectacularly is something else. It really is. Even if Man City were on top form, they'd struggle to keep with Liverpool right now. That's how good Liverpool have been. And I'm going to talk about Liverpool in another video and how good they've been, because you got to wax lyrical about them. They've been incredible. But for Man City should be 6 points, 5 points within them, There shouldn't be that much of a gap at this stage of the season. And I'm sure Man City will come into it more in the latter half of the season. And I'm sure they'll still get a top 4. People are saying they're not going to get a top 4. I think they'll get a top 4. But right now, on current form, like I said at the start of the video, they're the worst side in the Premier League. Nobody has picked up 0 points in their last 4 games, aside from Manchester City. And we have to mention, of course, the court case. The 115 charges. Is that having an effect on the players? I'm not so sure. I think when Guardiola signed on again for another season or 2, I think that's the moment where it's like, right, he's committed. These charges, they're not gonna be withheld, or they're not gonna get a serious punishment. We're not gonna get like points deduction or relegation or whatever. They seem pretty confident about that, and seemingly Pep is as well. So I don't think that's a problem for them now. I think their problem is just the lack of confidence on the pitch, and it's just, all areas of dominance come to an end. We saw it recently, not long ago with Chelsea. Mourinho doing an incredible job with them the second time around, and then they were relegation candidates the next season until he got sacked. That's not going to happen with Man City. They're just too good to be relegation favourite. They've already picked up like nearly 30 points, haven't they? So that ain't going to happen. But they need to turn around their form quickly if they're to get back into the top 4 and compete with the Champions League. And they also need to get back into competing in the Champions League too, because they're slipping. They're slipping and sliding. But yeah, guys, Man City fans, what do you think about all this? Why do you think you guys are struggling recently? What is the cause of this? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And of course, keep it subscribed to thefootballchronicle.com to see much more news and opinions on the beautiful game just like this.